You go onto Facebook and you see the likes and you see this validation and it's a tab and a tab and a tab and a tab and a tab. And now attention spans are shortening. You see young people who can't function outside of their phones. They have difficulty maintaining real relationships. Combine that with hardcore, unbelievably stimulating pornography. And then the real life experience doesn't live up. Question of the day before I move into the segment. What's your opinion on porn? Harmless or normal? Corrosive, dangerous? And from all angles. I want to hear what you think. Moral, legislative, and personally. What are your experiences with it? Do you consider them struggles? Let me know. This is a topic that people have a lot of differing opinions, a lot of heated opinions. Yeah. Because many are in heat. So the context here, this is, it started as a meme, this whole, by the way, if you have children, they probably shouldn't be here for this segment. We're going to talk about this frankly and really try not to make a bunch of dick jokes. So.
Try real hard.
Really.
Get it?
No, not hard. We'll try with great vigor. That's worse.
No, that's even worse.
Strenuously.
Difficult.
Diligence.
Yes. We will do our due diligence because I get mine. So, No Nut November is what it was called. It started out as kind of a meme. And it was basically this idea that people weren't going to watch pornography or masturbate throughout the month of November. So it started out as a joke.
And crime went up by 1,000%.
But more and more young people have been deciding, especially since they've been doing this, that porn is bad for them, that it doesn't work for them. They don't want to be watching porn. Some of them feel as though it's a real problem. Not necessarily everybody. So I'll get to my opinion in a second, but the media entertainment industrial complex, they've been trying to go on the offensive, for those who don't know, and they've been trying to convince people for a long time, but more so recently, that porn and masturbation is actually good for them, even going so far as to tie it in, as they always do, with something that they want to support or they necessarily don't like. They just go, you know what, we're going to tie No Nut November to the far right.
Clinical psychologist Dr. David Lay has a theory about why these young men are so angry. They're not strangling their pepes.
Across the alt-right movement, leaders are telling young men not to masturbate.
Religious groups harangue the public about the dangers of porn on the body and on the mind, but the evidence just doesn't pan out. Common sense might say that men who watch a lot of porn might have trouble getting it up, but this research found precisely the opposite. Instead of inhibiting arousal, men who watched porn actually got more erections. And that result was maintained with as much as 25 hours of porn watching a week.
Use sexually explicit material in order to get sexually interested.
Okay.
In order to have that arousal.
What do you mean you watch porn out of boredom?
Okay, has anyone ever just been ridiculously bored and you're just like, so that's the end?
Just watch the porn, who cares? Be whatever you want to be.
Well, hold on, how does porn allow you to be whatever you want to be?
It doesn't. What
does that mean?
If I can see it, if I just believe it.
It doesn't.
What is that? It doesn't help you at all. And is he in the porn?
Oh, good Lord. I hope
That's an effective PSA against pornography. So let's get Psychology Today, by the way, they've even been pushing it. Their advice for developing, they actually say porn is good for developing more sexual integrity because it makes people less religious and more positive toward homosexuality. So let's be really clear. Psychology Today would sooner have you watch Japanese tentacle gangbang than read the book of Matthew. Now, let me be clear on the outset. I disagree on a personal level. But let's look at the facts as they relate to the ever-changing world of porn. I think it's very important that we define what we're talking about here, too. Because this is where you'll see a lot of different opinions, and I think a lot of sort of boomers, older folks are kind of out to lunch. We're not talking about a nudie magazine. Under someone's bed or buried out in the forest, that somebody has to go out there with a box of tissues, if the seasons permit.
I have no idea.
Assuming that they're in the northern hemisphere. The southern hemisphere doesn't exist because the Earth is flat. Anyway. I actually think it's a cube, but a whole can of worms.
Lots of flatness.
So we need to address it. We're talking not about a magazine or even a video. We're talking about a tab and 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 a tab of pornography. And that's very different. And we did conducted an interview with Gary Wilson of Your Brain on Porn a long time ago. So let me be clear. Porn is far more ubiquitous than in our parents' or grandparents' era. Okay, it's become so pervasive now that studies show 1 in 10 porn users are under 10 years old.
That's insane.
Think about that for a second. When you take the top 2 porn sites together, they account for almost 6 billion monthly views. That's more than Twitter, Wikipedia, or Instagram.
Wow.
Yeah, so this is important because we need to acknowledge how many people are using it, how frequently they are using it, and the kind of ramifications that it could have. Again, this is very different. Before we even knew about the idea of addiction to social media, I talked about this with Gary Wilson. Now they've talked about, the guy who played by Andrew Garfield at Facebook said, like, we didn't realize that we were effectively developing an addiction platform for young kids. Well, you combine that with the greatest dopamine releaser, without barring drugs, that we know in the human body, and that's sex. So you combine the tab and a tab and a tab and the violation of expectations, and people are addicted to their phones, only you add bodily fluids. That's what we're dealing with right now.
Terrible.
So it's a little bit different than what we're talking about, someone looking through, the Sears wish list catalog, hoping for a nipple. By the way, I found one in 1998. Worth it.
That's why She-Hulk was a thing for you.
She-Hulk was a superhero card.
It did.
And when I looked at it under my brother's bunk bed, I would get very comfortable. So, considering the prevalence, it is important to look at the mounting evidence that shows there are definitely some negative psychological ramifications. And I want to talk about this because a lot of people out there struggle with it and say, well, what can we do? And the truth is, people are far more ashamed, I think, out there now to discuss their struggles with porn than they are to just talk about or praise porn.
Yeah.
And we can't be flippant about it. If you have this many people, 1 in 10 are under 10 years old, it would be like any other public health concern. If you found out that 1 in 10 people who eat cheese, get SARS, you'd be like, well, hold on a second, we need to start looking at cheese. I thought the Kerrygold at Trader Joe's was good because it was grass-fed from New Zealand cows. Turns out,
no.
I was incorrect.
Yes.
Irish cows. I should get that right. Otherwise, it'll be a little Snopes
Irish
icon
cows in New Zealand
on YouTube.
Three Pinocchios.
Great resource here, brainonporn.com. And first, let me address this on the outset. Yes, there are studies out there that show apparent benefits to porn. That's what people can, they can make the argument. But surprise, surprise, they're based on subjective self-reporting. This is important. A lot of people go, well, how does the data come in differently that's pro-porn and anti-porn? It's like the healthcare statistics. They go, well, hold on a second. How do you say that we have better healthcare in the United States and people in other countries don't think so? Well, if you look at the subjective healthcare rankings, and these are just globally ranked based on people's personal satisfaction with their healthcare, it rates us right between Slovenia and Cuba. Then there was the UK World Health Study. It was 11 countries ranked. The United States was ranked 11th. The UK was ranked number 1, despite us having higher survival of cancer rates. I think you're twice more as likely to die from breast cancer. So subjective reporting is not an accurate measurement for the effects of pornography. People like porn, and people who watch porn and want to watch more porn, of course, are going to say, it's been great for me.
It's working out. It's like making policy by polls like Bernie Sanders does. I don't know. What do people think? Well, let's do that.
I don't think there's a problem with heroin. So apparently Bobcat Gold, big heroin. Let's look at some of the objective studies, though, as it relates to porn. Much more likely to make people feel depressed. It desensitizes people. Evidence points to the fact that it pushes them to more and more taboo content, often involving violence, combining violence and sexual arousal. As a result, it can make sex less enjoyable in real life. It can lead to problems like low libido, lack of interest in sex, erectile dysfunction in men. Let me present you with a statistic. This isn't about self-reporting that I like naked ladies and dicks. That's not what we're saying. Young men's erectile dysfunction rates used to be around 2 or 5%. After the creation of free streaming hardcore pornography, numbers are now between 14 to 35%. That's almost 1,000% increase.
That's significant.
That's what we call statistically significant. Japan, it's gotten so bad, 36% of young men are not interested in having sex at all.
I don't think it's porn on that one, though.
Well, it's just kidding. No, it is pornography
totally
and also
kidding.
very weird stuff that happens in Japan.
It's a weird
place. But compare that to the whole, remember when we were growing up, the horny teen archetype? Even if you don't have to go back that far, American Pie. Compare that to 36% of young men in Japan. It's like, no, I just put a d in a computer.
I have a sex robot.
No.
What port do you use?
You're like, well, hold on a second. What about if you want to have? What if you want to have sex with a real lady in real life? No. I just need a USB-C.
Yeah, USB-P.
I don't know what this is. Like you're turning a key. Their porn apparently is a Prius. Just a 10 USB-C. Very, very horny. Yes, very horny. Early exposure, by the way, since we're talking about 1 in 10 of porn users are under the age of 10, early exposure can increase young people's chances of acting violently towards others, risky sexual behavior. This shouldn't come as a surprise.
No.
STDs. Okay. Yeah. So objectively, porn can also, this is something people need to know, and I think a lot of people have experienced this. This is why I want to know what your subjective experiences have been. But objectively, it can harm relationships. Divorce rates double when people are watching porn. when one spouse is watching porn, married couples have less sex, which it doesn't seem like we're treading new ground talking about this here, but a lot of people don't talk about it, as you see with Rolling Stone and the Young Turks. Watch the porn!
What's the matter?
Well, what if it is something, particularly this sort of, this almost like meta porn that we have now with these tabs and hardcore pornography and highlight reels.
Yeah.
What if it does have negative ramifications? Right? What if all of this data adds up and you go, hold on a second, how irresponsible is it to just say, just watch porn? And by the way, yes, I'm a hypocrite. Before you go on, of course I've seen porn. Of course, everyone in this room is a hypocrite. I want to be clear about that. We'll come back to that afterwards. By the way, please do hit the notification bell if you're subscribed, because subscriptions don't really mean a whole lot. New video every day at 8 o'clock Eastern, 9 o'clock Eastern, and of course, subscribe at Mug Club. That's the only way that we can continue to make these videos, because we've been demonetized for a long time. So. I want to talk about this to go back to this idea. You know, there's something called the violation of expectations.
Yeah.
And I talked about this with Gary Wilson. He was talking about how this is why the internet is very addictive to a lot of people, or social media, right? You want to search something. It could be, I don't know, you're looking for a skillet. What's the best way to season a skillet? And you type in a search, and you find more information than you could read in a lifetime about seasoning skillets.
Yeah,
right. You go, oh my gosh, a tab and a tab and a tab. Or same thing, you want to see what your friends are up to. And you go onto Facebook, and you see the likes, and you see this validation, and it's a tab and a tab and a tab and a tab and a tab. And now attention spans are shortening. You see young people who can't function outside of their phones. They have difficulty maintaining real relationships. Let's combine that. And by the way, this is admittedly a problem from people who've created these social media platforms. Combine that with hardcore, unbelievably stimulating pornography. It was always a concern before social media, but it's very, very different now, because young people are creating a neural pathway to get to sexual pleasure. And by the way, before they actually have sex, before they engage in any kind of consensual sex in a loving relationship, they could have experienced this neural pathway and walked down this path thousands of times before ever actually having a real life experience. And then the real life experience doesn't live up. How many people were addicted to newspapers or magazines?
Yeah.
Right? How many people? I gotta get my Sunday paper. It didn't happen. Right? It didn't happen. You weren't hiding from your wife in the bedroom in the dark with the funnies. So we need to address what it is that we are talking about. We need to define it. And it is a very different animal right now, pornography. And I think this does come full circle. I'm obviously more libertarian. I think that people can do whatever they want to do personally with their own bodies in the privacy of their own home. But when we are talking about pornography, in the legislation, there have been many attempts to regulate the distribution of porn to minors.
Right.
So I do think this is important, because you do need to see where people line up on both sides of the aisle. There are many laws, right, against adults actively showing porn to minors.
Right.
But there have been many attempts to require actual age verification for porno sites. And again, everyone here probably knows it says, are you 21? Yes. What criminal mastermind could possibly fool that system?
It's so hard to break.
It's like, enter in your birthday. I don't know if I'm admitting to a crime, but half the time if I'm just going to like a cigar website or something, I just put in any random birthday before 1987 because that's my birthday. I just go, I don't know, 5/14/87. I know I'm good. You don't think a 12-year-old can figure that out?
Right.
So anytime there has been an actual attempt for real laws regarding verification to view online porn at a federal level, they've all been overturned in the courts. So think about this for a second. Again, this is why I just think it's irresponsible. Wherever you line up, it is irresponsible to tell people, just go watch porn, who cares? Well, no one is advocating that kids can get into R-rated movies by themselves.
No.
But anyone can just open up their phone, click, yep, 21, and then whatever of the most depraved hardcore porn you can imagine. And by the way, hardcore porn that none of us could have imagined when we were 16, 18 years old, pre-internet, is available to them. And if we talk about, drag queen story time with kids and transitioning children, and people rightfully get upset about that because we want to protect the most vulnerable and innocent among us, then we do have to talk about what porn could potentially be doing to our kids. No one is saying that you should be able to sell porn to an 8-year-old. That's illegal.
No.
But for some reason, keeping it age appropriate as far as online content, it always gets knocked down. Remember when you were a kid, you walked through those cowboy swinging doors at Blockbuster? They couldn't grab you by the collar fast enough and pull you out of it.
Exactly.
But now there's no one to do that. Yeah. And I want to address this too. I think this is important, this idea of hypocrisy, because the left will often point to hypocrites on the right.
Yeah.
And they did this with Ben Shapiro when he talked about pornography. Yep, I'm a hypocrite. Everyone here is a hypocrite. But I think we need to recognize the difference between systemic hypocrisy and hypocrisy in vice. right? You see the left, they often point to Republicans. They go, oh, look, he's a hypocrite. He believes in moral Christian family values, but we found out that he was on, Ashley Madison. Or we found out that he was addicted to porn. Yeah. Or, or look, this guy, who are you, George W. Bush? Who are you to tell people that they shouldn't be abusing alcohol or drugs? You did coke one time.
Yeah.
We get it. You used to do drugs. Usually that's why someone is advocating against certain vices, because we understand that it's corrosive, and these are vice by its very nature means that it's tempting to everybody and it's inherent. And I don't think there's any more inherent carnal desire than that to procreate. Naked ladies look good. So want to be clear, everyone is a hypocrite on the right and on the left, sure. But I do think that the left points to hypocrisy on the right more so as it deals with morality and vice and issues of conscience that we all struggle with. That's not the same as, say, Al Gore advocating for a green climate policy, right? Advocating for carbon offsets and you not being able to drive an SUV, but flying around the world in a private jet and having 3 homes that use more power than you will use in 2 decades' time. That's not the same as, hey, listen, I think pornography is really bad. Oh, look, there's a naked lady. Of course I want to watch it. Versus, I think that you're killing the planet, but I'm going to fly around on a Learjet. There's a difference in hypocrisy found in vice. Every single person at some point in their life is a hypocrite as it deals with these issues. That is not the same as people who are proactively hypocritical and they make a hypocritical decision beforehand out of convenience. No one gets pulled by the lure. No one's born right inherently. When we're born, as soon as we know that we're men, we're like, oh man, I really like naked ladies. No one's like, as soon as we know, as soon as I think, therefore I am, I need a private jet. It's not the same thing. And this is something, too, everyone's going to point and laugh, right? We see this a lot with people who are here. I mean, people did it with Jordan Peterson, right? They said, Jordan Peterson wants to help people, but his wife was dying of cancer, and he found himself addicted to anti-anxiety drugs. Does anyone not find that incredibly reasonable?
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it's a good thing. And by the way, he went out and sought help, which is in his book.
Which is what he tells you to do, exactly.
He has always talked about never being above going for getting help. That is not the same as what we're talking about. This is people who are just pointing at those who enter the arena, saying, "Ha ha! You didn't make a perfect high jump. You missed your Fosbury flop," when they sit in the stands and don't attempt to do it. That's the difference between that versus banning high jumps. We're not talking about banning high jumps, but they do want to point out hypocrisy in ways that they are hypocritical as well. Because everyone on the left is just as hypocritical. Everyone who says porn is good, well, you can say they're not a hypocrite because they're just lying about it preemptively. Let's allow for the possibility that a lot of you could probably casually dabble in porn and not have a problem with it. There are probably lots of people, if you don't think there's anything morally wrong with pornography, and I know that a lot of you don't, there are probably quite a few people out there who could occasionally enjoy pornography and not see any negative manifestations as it relates to their life. But this is where you're going to see how upset people get by me just suggesting this. But if there are people out there who don't feel that way, people out there who do struggle with pornography, people, it starts from No Nut November, people out there who say, you know what, I watch porn and I don't want to, and they find it difficult. They find the pull hard to deal with, and maybe it's verging on an addiction. You know what? There are a lot of resources out there. There's Your Brain on Porn. We'll have some links in the description. And I would like you to comment. I'd like this place below to be I don't want to use the word safe space because now that's been ruined, but it's funny, like triggered is an actual psychological term, like for someone who was in war
it's a legit
and they hear
thing.
fireworks. But a safe space where people can talk about pornography today in the comment section. Send me your tweets. What have your struggles been? And people who've overcome it, help people out there. Provide some resources right now and let some other people in on how they can find help. Now watch, you're going to see some people claim that this right here is propaganda. All I'm saying is people out there who find themselves under the spell of pornography and want to break the chains, okay, we'll try and offer some help to you. To other people who don't have a problem with it, that's fine. Move on to the next comment section. Hey, I hope you enjoyed this clip. If you don't, these are the ABCs of me, baby. You can just click next video and put it in double speed. Of course, search doesn't necessarily work. Subscriptions, notifications don't necessarily work. Just bookmark this page, check in. We do a new video every single day, except for Sunday. And if you don't want this content to disappear, join Mug Club at louderwithcrowder.com/mugclub. It's only $69 if you're a student, veteran, or active military. And if you don't, listen. I don't want to say that you're hellbound, but it doesn't look good for you.